Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
Two Doomed Men podcast, the greatest, ready? The greatest podcast in the history of the country, perhaps even the world by far. I don't think anyone comes close.
What's up, everyone? It is Skaggs here, and you are listening to the Two Doomed Men podcast. No captain tonight. I am joined instead by returning guest, Mr. Andy Koons. Andy, what's up, brother? Thanks for coming back.
Oh, dude, it's happy to be here. Or I'm happy to be here. You know what I meant.
Yep. I know.
I ain't good with words.
That's okay. I was rewatching the last time we had you on, and like one of the first things you said was like you had a really big dick. So that gave me a good laugh.
yeah, that is true. It's
almost still true.
It's concerning. Like I've had doctors look at it and they're like, it's a monster. Like
all right. Well, that's good. Well, thanks for coming back. It's funny because we've been trying to make this happen for a while now. And Andy texted me on, so we had it set. We were like, okay, Sunday, this date. People's work schedules were changing. That's why the captain couldn't be here tonight. He couldn't get out of work. Andy texted me on Friday night and he's like, dude, there's a storm and my power is completely gone. I was like, Jesus, dude, it was like the universe did not want us to get together, but
yeah,
we made it and we're here.
But Consumers Energy in Michigan did, and they made it happen.
Yeah. Just for us.
Yeah.
Like they went out of their way just for us. Yeah.
I called them. I was like, you going to piss off Skaggs? And they're like, we're on it.
Yeah. If it was Eversource here in Connecticut, we'd be fucked because they are the absolute worst fucking energy company ever. I've had plenty of rants on the podcast about them. So Andy, what's going on, bro? It's been 2 years, dude, since you were on the show. Like I said, we've been trying to make this.
That's nuts, man. I can't believe it's been that long.
Yeah. You got some new music and shit that came out lately. What do you want to talk about, man? Let's do it.
Yeah, I do have some new music out. It's not the same like project as Monopoly on Violence, which I think I promoted that last time I was on here. We listened to a song or two, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
I don't remember. Anyway, but yeah, me and a buddy of mine started this other project called Animal Violence, and we just released a little 3-song EP, but it's called Mental Thrillness, and it's all about, mental health and, kind of what it feels like dealing with certain things, or certain, mental illnesses. So
what kind of inspired the title Animal Violence? It's an interesting title. I saw that. I'm like, that's interesting. Kind of reminds me of Animal Farm or something like that. Knowing you, I'm like, I wonder what he means by this.
Well, my friend, his name's Michael. He's not political at all. Not like I am. And so he tends to stay away from politics. It just, to me, I was just like, that sounds sick, and it's for the kind of music that it is. It's a really good, like, it's a fitting name. Like, yeah, I feel like that name kind of captures the sort of style that we're going for. And we were texting back and forth trying to come up with all these names, and I was like, it just popped up like Animal Violence, and I was like, that sounds pretty fucking cool, dude. And he was like, it does. So, and we had written a couple songs at that point. So
cool.
But
you follow that page on Instagram called Nature is Metal?
When I was on Reddit a lot, I followed the Nature is Metal subreddit.
Yeah,
Shit
they're all over.
was,
Yeah,
oh yeah, that shit was wild.
fucking crazy. You see
Yeah.
the craziest. Talk about animal violence. Like actual
Yeah.
animal violence is fucking brutal.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's like the you're least suspecting sorts of animal violence. Like I saw, what was it the other day? Like a snake was eating a beehive or some shit. It's just
Mhm.
it's fucking the animal world is crazy. So good
Or
title.
yeah, or
Yeah.
like a rat that's eating like the decapitated head of a bunny, and you're just like, oh
Yeah.
my god,
Yeah,
you know?
dude. Yeah, I just got little chickens today too, so I'm like in that
Mhm.
mode, that like animal mode. I got them out in my coop. Travis, like,
Mhm.
I put them in my coop on the floor. I'm like, I hope no snakes or anything go in there overnight and try and fucking eat them, but we'll find out.
So,
Yeah.
so if you own, like, I've heard so many times that, like, it all starts with buying your first chickens and then you turn into a conspiracy theorist. But what if you're already a conspiracy theorist when you buy chickens?
I don't know. Do you
Do
go
you turn
back?
into or do you revert back, or do you turn into like Super Saiyan Alex Jones? Like,
Yeah, in your fucking chicken coop. No, I don't think you go back, man. It's like the Matrix. You can't get
Yeah.
put back into the machine once you fucking taken the red pill. You get killed. If you do, you die. What was it? Remember that? You've seen the Matrix, obviously, right?
Oh yeah.
What was that guy? That character? There's such a great scene. Remember, he's trying to go
Morpheus,
back.
or was it
No, not
Morpheus?
Morpheus. The guy who plays Ralphie Cifaretto in The
Oh
Sopranos.
yeah, the bald guy.
Yeah, the bald guy. He he wants to go
Cypher.
back into Cypher. Yes, he wants to
Yeah.
go back in, and he couldn't.
Mhm.
Like, it's not that he couldn't, but in the movie, he like gets killed in the process of trying to get put back in. Thought there was a
Mhm.
little metaphor they were working on,
Yeah.
trying to with that as well. So
It's
yeah, I
weird
don't know.
how relatable that, like, especially
Yeah.
people from our political perspective, like, it's weird how relatable that character is, though.
Yes.
With the amount of stuff that we are aware of and sort of like can't unsee, especially whenever it comes to military industrial complex. I mean, any number of things. And then you see somebody who's like, yeah, I want to forget all of that and go back to being a happy idiot.
Yeah.
It's
It's like oddly noble in a way. I feel sometimes like I understand.
yeah.
I'm not saying I feel that way, but
Mhm.
and obviously we're both here libertarians, right? So we should both know better. But I was feeling hopeful after
Mhm.
Trump's election, and it was a really positive. I'd like to get your take on this. It was a really positive, like, first month or so
Oh yeah.
of with the Doge and all this stuff, and then we had like the next 70 days after that were fucking just atrocious, in my opinion.
Oh man. Well,
Um,
like, first of all, I have never ever once paid attention to a, like, whatever those hearings were where they grilled RFK Jr. and
hmm,
Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel. I've never watched one of those before, and I watched every
oh
minute
yeah,
of all of them. Because I was like, each one of these people are extremely important for, like, things that we want to see. Especially Tulsi Gabbard. Like, I know that she's hawkish in some areas, but she's the least hawkish out of
right.
everybody that could be put in that position. And so it's like this means something. Like, it means something way bigger than Trump. It means something way bigger than Democrats or Republicans. Like, this is putting our country back on a good track with getting these people in these certain spots. Now, has everybody done like a fantastic bang up job so far? No, not really. But it's also the first year. It's also like, I feel like these things take baby steps, So I'm still kind of hopeful for the overall sort of arc, but I don't know. His first 100 days could have gone a lot better for sure.
Yeah, I feel just like let down. I mean, one of our stories tonight will be what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino said the other day, which kind of gets to really the crux of it. I felt like the turning point for me, at least, was the Epstein stuff when they released those fucking binders. That joke of a stunt that they did.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute. But yeah, I try and keep that perspective of like, yeah, it's still early and whatnot. Thing is, like, I was promised a lot,
Yeah.
and I was expecting, or I wanted at least, like, fundamental change. I was never expecting him to be a libertarian president, but some form of fundamental change in some way or another. I don't know if we're getting that anymore, and it's a bit disheartening. which is making me want to, I'll be honest, which is making me want to like review whiskey. And because it's kind of like go back into the matrix a little bit at this point. It's like, God damn it, you know, like, is it really that? Is it really going to be that Trump was like just part of this machine? Just like, I don't know. If there was a positive, I guess, if there is a positive, I'd say everything you were talking about before, like RFK, Tulsi. I do think that the Overton window, as they call it, has shifted now.
Absolutely.
Way more in our direction. And this is a positive 100%. No matter what.
Yeah. And I think that is because I was feeling kind of what you were feeling. I was like, oh, well, that was a big waste, you know? But then, I mean, seeing the Overton window not just shift, but be violently ripped from where it was to where it is now, you know? Like, people are talking about things openly that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you could not talk about, you know? And so it's like that is like, I'm going to keep going back to this, I know, but like what's happening in our country right now is so much bigger than Trump or the Democrats or the Republicans. It's so much bigger. There is a huge cultural shift happening, you know? And so that's something that kind of I'm positive about it, but at the same time, I'm a little nervous about where the end stage is, you know, because that pendulum swung as absolutely far to the left as it possibly could.
Yeah.
You know, and it is starting to swing back, but it's swinging back hard. And like, there's nothing is stopping it, you know? And so what I'm worried about, and this is like, if you know a lot about, not that I'm an expert or anything, but, and I've never been,
I was wondering if you're going to say that,
but it's like, you know, if you know anything about Weimar Germany, and if you look at the situation that they were in, if you look at the situation that we're in right now, we're only a few degrees removed from where they were, you know. The books that they were burning were the kind of books that we're seeing in kids' libraries today, you know. And so it's the thing that I'm nervous about is, okay, like we are shifting the Overton window. We are moving that pendulum back in a good direction, but is it going to stop before it turns violent in that opposite direction to where we see the really bad, really toxic, really dangerous parts of the right, you know, where we see those voices get stronger and come into power and it can actually, you know, make things happen. That's what I'm really nervous about, you know. In Weimar Germany, you had basically that pendulum swing as far to the left as it could. You had cities that were populated more by women than by men, which means that men were not competing to get with women. Women were competing to get with men. And so you saw all sorts of debauchery and, you know, it was a lot like, you know, the free love thing in the 60s. But it was just, you know, it was given out for free, basically. You have OnlyFans, which has a huge presence in our society today. It's just men don't have to work men don't have to earn women at all. They don't have to. And the ones that do have to be earned, they're swept up just like that, you know? And you've got a lot of sexless, really frustrated young men who feel like nobody's speaking to them. And the individuals out there that did try to speak to them, like Jordan Peterson, have absolutely failed. They turned out to be drug addicts, or they cry on TV all the time, or they turn around and say, hey, your national identity that you're kind of worried about kind of makes you a bad person.
Psychopaths, what did he call them?
Psychopaths, yeah.
You know, or they do this weird thing. I saw you commented on something like this the other day, where they've come up. I mean, it's not Jordan Peterson has come up with this term, but they've come up with this term woke right, where they're now trying to like classify or label a portion of the right wing as woke right, and they keep using the term to describe people in our camp, like the anti-war libertarian camp, which is bizarre. I know you shared. I actually had this queued up. Thought it was funny. I actually muted him, so I had to unmute him temporarily just to see what it was you were commenting on, but James Lindsay posted, one mistake to rule them all, one mistake to find them, one mistake to bring them all, and in the woke right bind them in the land of Magador.
Magador.
Yeah. And it's an Arby's ring. He said the other day that Arby's was woke right or something. I muted him at this point too, but he actually called me directly woke right a few months ago. James Lindsay was trying to trot out this thing.
Man, I have been trying to piss him off. And I don't know if he's got me muted, but he never responds.
Yeah, I did get him to engage a couple times. So that's a great point, man. There are like these underlying fundamental things wrong with society. And like guys like that, Jordan Peterson, James Lindsay, they were kind of this, like during some of the insane woke shit, they were kind of like a reasonable voice during that time. Yeah. It is interesting now that they've decided to, class everyone as like the furthest, like everyone who's like the furthest far right fringe. They've tried to classify like us, like libertarians, and basically everybody. Like there's it's just odd. Like these guys are so smart. They're super smarty pants geniuses. I like to call them all the time, right? But they aren't smart enough to like parcel out that there are different groups within the right, and some of us have nothing to do with each other or don't believe anything each other. So it's what do you think about that? Like what is that? Why are they doing that?
Well, I mean that's the kind of bullshit that you come up with when you don't know anything about a group. Especially like a larger group, because there's groups within groups within groups within groups, especially when it comes to the right. And by the way, the ANCAPs are the only ones who are right about anything. But it's like when you have a big group like that, and I would say the ANCAPs are on the right side, in more ways than one, like right politically and right as in we're just correct. But when you don't know anything about a group, and like there's no reason to call Dave Smith woke right and Tucker Carlson woke right, because even those two are not in the same camp,
right? Right.
Like,
maybe they have some opinions that are similar, but they're not.
They called Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, and Jimmy Dore woke right. And those are all different areas of the political compass, like places that don't even touch each other, and yet they call all three of those woke right. And that's one of those things where it's just like, you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about if you don't know the difference between Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, and Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes no sense. It makes me wonder, man. One of the things I've learned doing the podcast and being in this like space for a couple of years now, actually like participating in it, is it's fucking shocking how fake and gay a lot of it is, or a lot of people are, and you are like surprised all the time, or you're reminded by it. And it makes me think, like, were these guys just full of shit before too? And just, they were saying some things that I kind of agreed with. So I'm like, pretty smart dude. I like that dude, whatever. Yeah. But now again, that there's been a cultural shift is occurring, and the winds are shifting. And like I've been saying the past couple months, it's like, I feel like the woke leftist stuff is like dead and buried for the most part. It's been repudiated and rejected with Trump's victory. Yeah, culturally.
Right? That's one thing that I tweeted out, or X'd out, whatever the fuck you call it now.
Posted.
Posted. Ugh.
Yeah, I know.
I tweeted out after Trump won. I was like, just that first week, from like that Tuesday to Friday, it was just kind of like, that's the biggest sigh of relief I think I've had politically in my lifetime. And it was just like, we beat them, and it's not to say that Trump is like our Christ or anything, but
I know what you mean. Right.
Yeah. Like we beat that bigger machine that we could see coming, and that really was, we won the culture war. We won. It's over. The woke shit's done. The woke shit's dead. Like, live your life. Just don't push your shit on me.
Yeah.
Like we won. And, but now I don't know. Now I think that things are going to gear up for like another culture war. I don't think it's going to happen during Trump's presidency. It'll probably happen like the next 20 years or something. But I think we're going to have another culture war, and it's going to be going the other way. But hopefully that'll be kind of the brakes that stop the pendulum from going too far the other way.
Sure, sure. I think I kind of know what you mean. You know, you said before, have you ever been? After that debate the other day, the captain and I were saying how years ago we had said that once this like woke shit is in the, you know, like in the rearview mirror, hopefully that means that then the rest of us sane folk on the right can now sit at the table and have actual discussions about meaningful shit, and like hash out some really kind of problems with society and foreign policy and politics. And I was like, dude, that like all those three guys sitting around that table was like the first iteration of that happening now. I felt like at the time. It's just odd to me that it seems like I was excited for that to come. I was like, okay, let Dave and a Douglas Murray and a Ben Shapiro and a James Lindsay and a Joe Rogan, let them go and like hash out all of our ideas in good faith, have a conversation, let the listener learn, make your own, you know, you make your own, form your own opinions based off of who you think is right or wrong. But it seems it's just odd to me, even using that as an example, that it seems like some of these guys have deployed the strategy of what the woke leftists were doing, which is like, you are not an expert. You should not be talking about this because you're a common rube or whatever. Or James Lindsay here, trotting out the same term to describe people that it makes no sense. It makes me just wonder, like, is it because these guys feel like they were able to profit off of all of that the past couple of years? Now they don't want like that revenue stream to die. So they want to, they're like invested now in like keeping that sort of concept going, just applying the term to a different group of people it's not related to or doesn't even make any sense. And this way they could keep writing papers and keep giving lectures and podcasts about it. And maybe their whatever fan base they have will follow them. I don't think it's working. I'm just, I think they're being like ratioed into fucking oblivion.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely correct, because if you go and look at James Lindsay talk about the woke left, like go look up his lectures or some of his interviews from a couple years ago, and he's spot on, you know. And then you look at him talk about the woke right, and you're just like, this does not make any sense.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. And it's the same thing with Jordan Peterson calling everybody psychopaths, and Douglas Murray using this argument of like, you have to be coined an expert in order to talk about this. And immediately after that Joe Rogan episode, it was blasted all over Twitter, him saying like, well, yeah, I don't think you have to be an expert in order to talk about something. Like it was the Douglas Murray versus Douglas Murray video that got posted.
The supercut. Yeah.
Or
how about the fact that it even came out that he's only got a fucking degree in like English. Right. So it's like, dude, what are you even talking about? Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if I feel like back in the day, meaning like the Occupy Wall Street times. I know Dave Smith has talked about this and made me think about it, where it's like there was something odd that happened there, where there was this like energy of the left, which was like the banks are fucked up, and there was this energy on the right, which was like Ron Paul and you know, it's the government and the Tea Party, and then identity politics was introduced like right around that time also. So you had like both kind of political sides of America were kind of figuring it out and maybe coming closer to one another in some sort of unified cultural political movement. And then identity politics was injected, my opinion, inorganically, thought up in some sort of think tank lab somewhere.
100%.
Is that happening again now because we were getting too close again? The podcast world, Trump's cultural victory. Is that being deployed or attempted again?
That very well could be, and it wouldn't surprise me if it were. But here's the coolest thing: it didn't work.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and so like not only like we've had the last, I'm going to say 10 years of just people being fed the fuck up with our entire system, and a huge rise in voices like Dave Smith, who are, and here's the thing, like I'm a sycophant for Dave Smith. He, like, the dude completely changed my life, you know. Like, I know I sound like a simp or whatever, but he's right about almost everything, you know. And so it's like I'm going to bring him up a lot because anyway,
there's nothing wrong with having that's also this weird thing where people think there's something wrong with having like somebody that you admire or respect or as an influence on you. Like, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Every person does or thinks of things that way. And to be honest with you, people who like would be like, oh, you know, that's gay. No, that's kind of gay that you think it's gay that people have influences. It's a good thing.
Well, and I do want to be clear.
Nature.
I do want to be clear. I am gay for Dave Smith. So if he's hearing this,
yes,
just
like big bearded dudes with big dicks, then
yeah. Like like medically concerning size dicks.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's just say I'm gonna bring him up a lot. Shit, what were we even talking about? We mentioned dicks, and I just
your whole mind just got thrown for a loop. Yeah, we're talking about the whole woke right thing, and if it's psyop similar to the the Occupy Wall Street identity politics movement. You said that it didn't work, so I kind of agree with you in principle. It like maybe its ultimate objective failed. The identity politics woke stuff. However, it did by itself, I don't know, 15 years or so, right? Like we are now set back 15 years.
Yeah.
Whereas, I don't know, maybe if the Ron Paul movement might have taken hold, 15 years ago, we'd be in a way different place. Right now, we wouldn't. Maybe Ukraine and Russia wouldn't be at war. We wouldn't be flirting with war in Iran or whatever. So it bought it maybe 15 more years. And that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling fucking tired of having to wait or be told now's not the time. Constantly, and a little bit we'll play the Dan Bongino thing. It's just like, God damn it. I felt like we fucking turned the corner here with the election culturally. And now you have all three branches of government, right? And, your administration coming into power. No, you're not me exactly. I don't believe in everything I believe in, but God damn it. I was, like, now what? We're going to be set back another 15 years by another fucking psyop thing to divide everybody or some shit like that.
Yeah. I definitely think the idea of like sitting back and waiting for the right time, there will never be.
Yeah.
I don't think there will ever be a right time. I think the only time that wasn't really the right time was like July 5th, 1776.
Right.
Like maybe that's not the right time, but like right now, the right time was in 1913 after the Federal Reserve was built. Like that's when the right time was for us to collectively come together as a country and say, fuck no, we're not doing this, and putting our foot down. Like there's a line that Alan Moore put in V for Vendetta. And actually I don't remember if it's in the comic book and in the movie, but the first time I ever heard it was in the movie, and that's when I was in high school, and it sent chills down my spine. And the line is, people should never fear their governments. Governments should always fear their people. And that's one of those that even whenever I was a Sean Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, Republican kid, neocon kid in high school, I heard that and I was like, God damn, it hits on an entirely different level. And it's something that is objectively true. Government should always fear their people. People should never fear their government, And I think because of that is what kind of makes me as radical as I am, especially online. Like, I've gotten in trouble a handful of times.
So real quick, dude, that's funny because I was looking back at some of our old tweets to each other, and I noticed I have a bunch of tweets in response to you, and all your tweets are deleted from them. I'm like, oh, Andy must have got himself in trouble somewhat.
There was, shoot, just this year, I think I've been put on 2 like 7-day suspensions on X, and it's usually from some stupid senator from some leftist state or whatever saying, hey, this is why we should steal your money and give it to these war criminals. And I'm like, you should probably be hanged in public, or like I'll say something really stupid like that and get in trouble. But I get the energy that you have where it's like, I'm tired of being told to like wait for the right time. There's never going to be a right time, and so I think the only thing that we can do is just kind of radicalize the people behind us, and not to say that we can go and like commit acts of violence or anything like that. We shouldn't do anything like that, but we should definitely have a mindset of like, no, you people should be afraid of us.
Oh yeah. I agree. Yeah,
we are like, you exist to serve us. You should be terrified of us.
Yeah. Again, it's funny always coming from the anarchists, right? But like, we understand the way the system is written down on paper and designed. And to be honest with you, like that's the way it's designed, right? It was designed with that kind of mentality in mind. Yeah, that's literally the way the founding fathers thought it up, right? And so now the fact that that system, handed down from the founding fathers, gosh, clutches its pearls. God forbid, the grandmas go on a guided tour on January 6th or something like that. Democracy will fall or some bullshit like that. Yeah, it's fucking ironic.
Yeah.
Looking at it, back. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. So just a disappointment on my end. But you're making me feel a little bit more hopeful. Maybe this was the right podcast at the right time for me.
I think there's a lot to be hopeful for. I think there is
Sure.
a lot to look forward to and be positive about. I think if we get bogged down with like Kash Patel said some weird stuff, or I don't know. We got to think positive.
Fair enough. Let's play and let everybody hear what they had to say.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work.
Okay, so real quick, positive I'll take out of that whole thing. Wow, did Dan Bongino blink a lot while he was saying he killed himself? It doesn't appear to me like Dan Bongino is telling the truth in what he's saying there. Another positive in terms of the Overton window, the head of the FBI says, hey, you're entitled to your opinion. I mean, that's much better than what the previous heads of the FBI would have probably referred to as you're a dangerous terrorist who's trying to overthrow democracy by even suggesting that Jeffrey Epstein did something, wrong here. So that's good. What do you think about this whole thing? These two guys, look, man, I go into these two guys. I mean, like Dan Bongino is literally us. He's a fucking, or at least he's like me and Cap. He's a podcaster guy. Yeah. Right. He's got obviously a little bit more impressive resume than we do, being in law enforcement and whatnot. But like our guy goes in there, I'm expecting some sort of accountability in this regard. And then it seems like they're just like going with the established narrative once they get into power. And it's cliche, again, coming from the libertarians, which should know better, the anarchists, right? But man, is it really just more of the like guys talk all this shit, then they get into power and absolute power corrupts absolutely and something like that, and now they're afraid? What do you think's going on there?
I think the CIA showed them pictures of their family. That's my gut reaction. But also, that's Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, because they've spent time in our space, like they come from our space. They know like what we're going to think about that. They absolutely know that we're not going to take that seriously. We're not going to accept that as an answer, because if they were sincere about it, they would have said he did kill himself and this is how he did it, and they would demonstrate all the holes that we've found, how those aren't actually holes. Actually, if you look at the file, if you look at the footage or whatever, here's why it appears to have this plot hole in there, but here's where that hole is filled in. They would attack this specific issue with that sort of like surgical precision, but they didn't. They just said, turns out he did kill himself. And it's like, no, the fuck he didn't. And you know that he didn't, and I know that he didn't, and I know that you know, and you know that I know that you know, and all that stuff. Right. Like they couldn't answer that question in the way that they know they needed to, and so maybe that's an answer in and of itself. Maybe they're like, he did kill himself, wink, So
yeah, it's like the old Solzhenitsyn quote that you were saying, right? Like that we know that they're lying. They know that we know that they know that we know that they're lying.
Yeah.
It's something like that. Maybe that is it. I sent that in a Q group that I'm part of on Instagram. Don't know how I even figured out or found myself in that group, our podcast pages. And I was like, thoughts. I just sent that and I was like, thoughts. And someone's like, they're protecting witnesses, in the whole thing. I was like, hey, fuck. These guys always have an answer for something. I gotta hand it to them. Maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe it is the whole, the fact that they didn't itemize their explanation, like you're saying, and pointing out everything. And they kind of just joked, yuck. There's nothing to see here. Maybe. I'm just hoping it's not more of the same, maybe it is something like that too. You're saying there is a threat of violence. I mean, Trump did, you know, almost got his head blown off, right? Maybe there is a, you know, a photo that they're shown, and it's like, look, you guys want to go and like arrest pedophiles and actually prosecute crime in some sort of square draw Republican style that we weren't doing the past couple of years. Like, go ahead, go do that. You guys want to do that? We're not going to get in your way and stop you.
Yeah.
But you ain't going after Epstein. You ain't going to change anything fundamentally. There's not going to be any accountability for whatever that whole thing was, right? You know, and we'll even allow you to go and like talk about it on TV and release binders full of nothing to people and claim some sort of victory. But you're not actually going to change anything there. Sorry. Or you'll end up, you know, something will happen to you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And it's not just our own, like American agencies that we have to
deal with, or they would
have to deal with,
you
know, because I mean, especially when you're talking about somebody like Epstein, you're talking about the CIA, you're talking about Mossad, you know, like you're talking about probably
agencies,
like even the British intelligence agencies, was MI5, I think, or MI6.
Yeah,
I don't know, one of those. But
ones that make the cool fucking movies about, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't make any fucking cool movies about Mossad or the CIA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's multiple intelligence agencies, including foreign agencies, where, you know, any one of these agencies could mail you a picture of your daughter playing at a playground and be like, no, Epstein did kill himself, you know? Because here's the thing, like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, like, if I got a picture like that of like one of my boys playing in my backyard and they said, hey, drop this whole Epstein shit, like, I would be posting videos and tweeting like crazy tomorrow, like, hey guys, Epstein actually did kill himself. Like, that's
sure.
That,
if you're actually like a good person who cares about your family, that's a natural response to have in that scenario.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, I know there's some dudes out there that I was like, oh, I don't know, man. You just go, you know, they're just trying to scare you. It's like, well, that scares me.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
again, you know, backdrop of someone took a shot at Trump, right? And then someone tried again to take a shot at him a couple months later, right? So yeah, man, violence is a powerful motivator, right? And it could very well be, you know, and it could be, again, like a deal, or it could be a like I was saying before, like you know, we could commit violence on you. You know, we don't want to. We'll let you go and do some of these other noble things you want to get done. So then you're in the driver's seat. You're Kash Patel. You're Dan Bongino. God damn it, I hate to be explaining for these guys or be the guy doing the cope for them. But again, just devil's advocate, you know, you know, you could get shot and, you know, you could try and, you know, uncover the whole Epstein ring. Your family gets killed and then, or they get to live and you get to go and arrest pedophile rings that are happening across the country. You know, like you could still do some good. It would make sense that those guys would maybe just be like, all right, we're just going to go after like the normal average Joe pedophile rings and bring all those guys to justice.
Here's the thing, like I can't think of anybody that would, like, if that came to light, like if there was some document dump by, you know, somebody out there who was like, hey, we found this recording of this CIA guy talking to Kash Patel and saying, we'll blow your wife's head off if you keep talking about this Epstein stuff, or if you keep, you know, pushing on this, and he folded. I can't think of anybody that'd be like, nah, he should have kept going. Like, his wife is a worthy sacrifice. You know, I can't think of anybody that would do that, you know?
Yeah. The only way you're going to, right, if that's going to be what happens, the only way you're going to, like, I don't know, you're going to have to be so aggressive in that scenario. You're going to have to go into it knowing that's happening, that's going to happen, and you have a plan to, like, deal with that security. A whole bunch, I don't know, maybe it's even best if, like, you don't even have family, you know? Like, it has to be somebody who doesn't have a family that's going into that. But then they'll always find a way, man. It's just, again, like, it's for, you know,
we need a libertarian sterilized single orphan. All right.
It's funny because when I met Chase Oliver and I was me and him were smoking a joint a couple months
Not
ago.
him.
No, but he was trying to make that point to me that he's like, I'm young, I don't have any kids, I'm not married. He's like, I have the time to go and sell the message to everybody and do all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? That's a pretty good point. I'm like, unfortunately, I didn't say this to him in his face, you know, because he was being nice to me. But I'm like, but you're not the person to be selling the message, though. Still. Or the message you're selling, I'm not sure is the one that is going to be the one resonating with everybody. But I understand kind of tactically or strategically what he's trying to say. You know, I don't have anything to lose or something like that.
I had a funny interaction with him because the first time that I met him was at Reno, and it was right after the takeover. You know, like right after Angela McArdle was voted in, like the votes were counted and stuff. And everybody was outside, and we're all smoking and bullshitting, and he's fuming. He is stomping around. He is absolutely fuming. And I was in this weird position because like I used to be a bleeding heart liberal, and now I'm a bleeding heart ANCAP libertarian something or other, you know? And so like I still do feel bad for people whenever they are mad or like they feel like they've been wronged or something. I don't know. And so he's sitting there just fuming, and I'm talking to him. He does not come across like a gay man. All right.
He doesn't. I give you that. Yeah, like in an actual real life scenario. Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So I was sitting there, and he was telling me about all the problems that he had with the Mises Caucus, and you know, I told him up front, I was like, well, you know, I am a member of the Mises Caucus. I'm here as a member of the Mises Caucus, and he goes, you know, I've seen some of the Discord chats and stuff like that, or Signal chats, Discord. I don't remember. We were on Discord. And he made a point, and I was like, you know what, you're right. I was like, you are right. We can't sit around and call each other faggots all day. And he goes, like that. And then we quickly finished our conversation. It wound up being a good conversation, and then he left. And then like 2 days later, I was like, I found out that, oh, that's Chase Oliver, and he's gay. And I was like, shit.
Oh, so you weren't even aware of who he was at the time when you were talking to him?
I didn't know who he was. He was just a dude in flip-flops and a cowboy hat. Like, that was very
he just
angry.
Came out of a YMCA concert or something. Oh man, that's funny.
I felt bad because like I don't know. I've got gay family members. I don't hate gay people or anything like that, you know. But I said that, and he was just like, and I found out he was gay. I felt bad.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Hey, he had a shot, and he got less votes than basically everybody. Somebody who wasn't even running for president anymore, RFK. So It is what it is. He got his shot. Can't even be mad about it at this point. I think, dude, we have to talk about tonight the breaking news from today as well. That came out. This is like major fucking news, but I feel like it's one of those weird stories where it's major news, but then it doesn't really kind of like matter anymore because Biden's not the president or anything. But yeah, the news came out today. I got to hear from ABC News that former President Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. What does a Gleason score of 9 mean? It says Biden is battling an aggressive form of prostate cancer. His office announced on Sunday, adding his condition to be characterized by a Gleason score of 9. His office also said Biden's diagnosis included metastasis to the bone. Biden's cancer diagnosis comes after a small nodule was found in the former president's prostate after a routine physical exam on Tuesday. The discovery of the nodule necessitated further evaluation, his spokesperson said at the time. So it is one of those weird things where it's like, the guy's not even president anymore. Who cares? But I just think that the backdrop, at least my take on this, like the backdrop of this is we all watched as this guy was not even alive as president. I don't know what he was exactly. We make fun, dementia, this, that, whatever. I don't even know if this is a joke, to be honest with you. And now this, this sounds really bad. We were chatting before we started recording. I was like, it sounds like he's fucked. He's dead. Like he's on death's doorstep in a sense, from what I understand about when the cancer gets to your bone. Now, from what I saw, like the Twitter doctors, take it with a grain of salt. They haven't been there. They're not experts, right? But they said if you are, if you're at this Gleason number, if it's in the bones, it's like that's been progressing for quite some time. Why is that important? Because it blows up that whole narrative that they were fucking selling to us for the past year or 2 years. He was sharp as a tack, and there was, he's completely there behind closed doors, and he's completely healthy, which all of us obviously knew he wasn't. It just shows the level of like depravity of these fucking people. In my opinion, they had to have known that he wasn't actually going to survive in the next term, and he only has a few years, if not months, left to live. And they're
So
like,
that was like their backdoor way of getting Kamala Harris into the Oval Office.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't it? It's just so gross,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, damn it, old man, march, get your ass up there
Mhm.
and go and win that fucking presidency until the day and you sit in that office until the day you're gonna die, and we know you're gonna die
Yeah.
soon.
Mhm.
I view it as, dude, he's the president. They without a doubt are doing like the best tests. They're
sure.
in reality, like they're actually analyzing your health all the time. They probably have state of the art shit that we don't fucking know about. They knew, right? And the fact that they did know, and they still went along with it anyway, it's just gross. The family too. I'm sure the family fucking knew, and they
Yeah.
were out there trotting him out there
Yep.
over and over,
Yeah.
humiliating himself.
Basically posting him up on a stick,
Yeah.
you know?
Again, I shouldn't be surprised. I know what these people are capable of. This is a guy who funded a proxy war in Ukraine that's gotten fucking probably a
Mhm.
million people killed. Backed Israel's fucking insane war in Gaza,
Mhm.
to the hilt, as much as they want to pretend that he didn't. So it doesn't shock me, this
Yeah.
level of depravity these fucking people go through. But they're even insanely depraved when it's themselves or
Yeah.
their own family. Like, there is no bounds to their fucking depravity.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there really isn't. What do you think about the whole thing, dude?
Well, I think when you have people who get together who their ultimate, like their version of success is having power, and when you get these people who are devoted till the end of time to retaining power and gaining more power, then yeah, I mean, what is it to them to put an elderly man through 4 absolutely grueling years of public scrutiny and and like, just, I mean, especially people like us, like I was I remember I got on Facebook during Biden's presidency. I was like, it is okay to make fun of the stutter of the most powerful man
Of course,
on
yeah.
the earth. It's okay. And I still had people who were like, no, it's not. It's not okay to make fun of somebody for a stutter. I was like, not a normal person. I would never do that to a normal
Sure.
person, but this guy has the nuclear codes. I can absolutely do that to him, But anyway, when people who all they want is power and all they want is to keep that power forever, it's nothing to do that to an elderly man,
Yeah.
And especially if they know that, like, hey, you know what? He's going to serve in office for 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, whatever. Then he'll die. But then Kamala Harris, who's one of us, like, she'll be in power, and she'll bring the next phase of whatever we're trying to do, whatever war we're trying to start,
Yeah, whatever like agenda we're trying to push, expansion of the state, in this creative, weird way that we're doing it. She's completely on board with that. Yeah, absolutely. I think they didn't even probably mind the fact that Biden was half dead as
Yeah.
president, right? It's like, oh, we don't have to like worry about him having any objections to anything. Like, I could imagine, I picture sometimes like the great big evil man boardroom, like where they all like meet to discuss their evil plans.
Yeah.
And there has to be some disagreement on exactly how much, how far, the X's and O's of the things exactly.
Yeah.
And within that little space, there will be some space for the person who's at least the figurehead to be like, well, I think you guys are going too far in this regard. Perhaps we need to tone it down for the next 3 or 4 years or something like that, right? Well, the guy's half dead, so he can't even do that. So like, we could just literally do whatever we want with no chance of pushback here. Again, like, let's use Trump as the example. I would think that he pushes back on shit all the time and voices his opinion, and he's bombastic and loud in the meetings, right? And that's a pain in the ass for the deep state or the establishment, whatever the fuck you want to call them, right? They don't want that, so they probably preferred the guy, to even Harris. To be honest with you, it was like a best of both worlds. He stays.
Well,
she
wasn't pushing back as far as like whatever they wanted to do with national security or like our foreign our like any of our foreign affairs. She's not pushing back. I mean, we've seen her performance in interviews. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about with our foreign policy, So that she was a perfect person because she was just as much of an idiot as Biden was.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now I'm kind of thinking about what we were talking before. We're talking about Bongino and Cash Patel, they got families, they care about them. But then we're talking about here about these other guys who are literally sending their families into the wood chipper, so that they could get more power. It reminds me of everything. Always reminds me of the Lord of the Rings, but they have one quote. What the fuck is it? It says like, "What can men do against such like reckless hate?" It makes me feel that way. Like, what can you really do against this juggernaut behemoth that's just so fucking evil and depraved that they'll do shit like that? Right? They will back starvation campaign against like the poorest fucking people on the planet. They will send their own dad to his death, with no acknowledgement of that he's even going through it or there's something wrong with him, to his embarrassment. Like, I don't know, man. I guess I can appreciate how difficult it is to kind of like take that whole thing on and unwind it. Speaking of Dave Smith, I think he said it's the most difficult thing that will ever be accomplished or humans will ever have to do. To like shrink this behemoth, unwind the federal government of the United States. It really is. It really is just fucking insane, dude.
To stick with Lord of the Rings, and I will have your viewers know that this glass has the map of Middle Earth engraved.
Oh, are you that big of a fucking nerd just like me? I have one.
Yeah, dude. I saw your Lord of the Rings book in the background.
Oh,
all right?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah.
I also saw the Jurassic Park.
There's Theoden right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I see. I see all the shit. All right. The journey from the Shire to Magador took 13 months. All right. And it was done by a midget and his midget best friend. They had no fighting experience. They had barely any survival skills other than going and getting food from the woods and building a campfire. They had no warrior instincts, but what they did have is they had the knowledge that this had to be done because they have to do this or else this giant behemoth of a machine, evil machine, will win. And listen, man, we both go to our jobs every day and we take care of our families. But man, it's going to be a long road, but it starts with like talking to your kids about this stuff. We don't have to, you don't have to talk to your kids about like, oh, 9/11 was done by fucking Jewish aliens or something, or something like crazy like that. You don't have to like put tinfoil hats on them or anything, but like raising them to ask questions and to be skeptical and to like ask for evidence. If somebody says some wackadoo shit, teach them to ask for evidence. All three of my kids, I've told them my perspective on things, but I've never pushed my perspective on them. But just teaching them to be skeptical in a healthy way and to ask questions and to try to see the bigger picture of things instead of just taking the little tidbits of information that they're given as gospel truth. Like, my kids also don't trust the government. They also see like how horrible and how depraved the war machine is. And that's not because I sat them down and said, this is what you believe. It all comes down to like how you raise your kids. It's going to be a long journey to get there, but we absolutely will get there. And I think that Trump winning the second term was a big, giant leap in that direction. He's not a savior. He's not everything we were hoping for because it's not about him. It is about the movement that's been building ever since like ever since like 9/11.
I agree.
A movement,
this period of history. Yeah.
Yes. Like I feel like just the headlines that I've been seeing recently about Trump sort of distancing himself from Netanyahu.
Oh,
like,
it's interesting as fuck. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And like for the first time in living memory that we have had somebody who's like, maybe these aren't the good guys, or maybe I shouldn't be so buddy with them. That right there is a giant leap forward towards Magador.
Yeah, I even saw, look, just to comment on that, I even saw someone, I don't know if exactly this was a quote from Trump, but something along the lines of like, hey, I love Israel and everything. He's like, my disagreement right now was with Netanyahu. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, what that is so different.
Perfect.
Holy
Perfect.
shit. Yes, you can. Look,
Yeah.
look, you can like Israel, but you
Yeah.
don't have to exactly do every single thing this one current iteration of its government decides it wants you to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's called politics. We're allowed to disagree, and they're a political party, they're a government, etc.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. I went through all 36 hours of Daryl Cooper's
Oh, it's Fear and Loathing. Yeah.
yeah, Fear of Loathing in the New Jerusalem. I cannot say enough good things about it, you know. And one of the things, like, it's so crazy that people call him a Nazi.
Oh, it's insane. It's the dumbest
It's
fucking
absolutely
thing.
insane
Yeah.
because what I learned from that is, first of all, if I was a Jew living in Europe in the 1800s, you know, in the late 1800s, and I had witnessed pogroms, and not just like a pogrom, like 1,000 years of pogroms,
Mhm.
you know, and the most horrible, brutal things being done to my ancestors and my family and like people that I know. I can absolutely 100% understand the attitude of going into the Middle East and saying, this is ours. We're taking it by force, and I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Totally understand. It doesn't make it right.
Right.
But I totally understand how 1,000 years of brutal violence can stir up that kind of sentiment. You know, I'm the kind of person that's like, you know what? They settled, not settled, but they established Israel 80 years, 90 years ago, 80 years ago. There's probably not anything that's going to happen that's going to reverse that anytime soon, you know? And so I am one of these people that's like, yeah, Israel does have the right to defend itself, but I also understand all the events that led up to October 7th, that war with Gaza was not started on October 7th, and that their response to that has been totalitarian and brutally violent, you know, tens of thousands of kids dying. You know, I don't remember if you saw the video. There were like two teenagers that were just walking in Gaza, and then an airstrike
Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah.
vaporized
Actually, I
them.
posted that one on it got removed because of how fucking crazy it was. You know,
I-
which yeah.
Yeah, I saw that video, and my blood boils because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm watching a video of my oldest son's 14. I'm watching a video of a kid that's as old as my oldest son just get obliterated because he was at the wrong time, wrong place, at the wrong time, and he was the wrong ethnicity. You know, horrible. At the same time, it's like, you know what? If some Hamas, you know, October 7th was an awful thing.
Yeah.
It's horrible what Hamas did.
Heinous, like some of the shit that happened. Of course. Yeah.
Evil, like what they did to women and children. And it's like, dude, I wish that hell was real so that the guys who did that will spend eternity there. But I forgot the larger point.
Yeah, it's, you know, of course, dude, you know, just I look at things as, you know, obviously that shit was all heinous and gross. I'm not going to say it's exactly a heat of the moment decision, a lot of what those guys did in, you know, but it's not exactly the same thing as, let's say, in the Pentagon, a bunch of guys in suits are sitting around a table making policy decisions over how they're going to starve to death this area of people, and flying AI robots are going to come and vaporize their children. Like it's not exactly the same thing, at least to me. Like, we don't have to do that as a policy objective, or like we don't have to have a meeting and that's the outcome of a meeting. If I'm living in constant bombardment, you know, my 3 of my fucking kids, uncles, you know, aunts have been killed by this opposing force from it, I'm gonna probably be in a real savage, insane, heinous fucking frame of mind, right? And I might act out in some insane way. Now the rest of us can still acknowledge that and be like, that's fucked up, you shouldn't do that, it's not right, it doesn't, you know, 2 wrongs don't make a right. However, I view it as like, we don't have to do that dressed up with suit and ties and have meetings about it. And like, this is the strategy we're going to deploy, you know, in order to combat radical, you know, Islamic terrorism or whatever the fuck they're going to come up to try and sell you, you know. And I look, dude, I don't even like that term that everybody uses. Well, Israel has a right to defend itself. It's like, what the fuck does that even mean exactly? What is it? Because that's not, because I understand, like, if me or you were saying that, it'd probably mean like someone, right, a gang of insane people come across the border and we start shooting at them, defend our families,
Right.
and whatnot, right? And then that's it, right? We don't then go and murder their own families, right? But like it's being used in this context of, right, well, us defending ourselves is a blockade,
is going and blowing up
campaign,
an apartment building,
blowing up, right? You know,
Yeah.
it's not the same thing. So the fact that everyone, I know you're not everybody, but like a lot of people saying that that's what they're describing when they say defense. It's just like, oh Jesus, now you're gonna ruin the fucking word defense on top of that.
Just
what people are gonna now think of as defense in the future.
What I definitely mean that in the autistic.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
Yes. That's a given. Yes.
Yeah. I whenever I get into discussions about that, actually I've used this more for discussions about the war in Iraq. But like I always try to make things as relatable as possible. And this is something that I'm gonna simp out again, but this is something that Dave Smith is really good at. He's really good at drawing parallels with like everyday life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so like if you look at our war machine, say we have a problem, or our neighbors, husband and wife, they're fighting with each other, you know, or our neighbor is fighting with one of their neighbors. It isn't us. And then I just tell one of my sons, hey, the lady in that house is the one who's right. So go kill everybody else, you know, and I hand my kid a gun and I'm like, hey, good luck, you know, and I just keep sending my own kids over there to do this stuff because I have a vested interest in who wins this argument between these two neighbors, you know, and I was like, now scale that up to nations, you know, to where it's not, these aren't even our neighbors. These are people who live several counties over. You don't even know who they are. You don't even know how to get to their house. And I'm telling you that it's in our best interest that you have to go over there and shoot one of them. That's insane. But when you can like really personalize things like that, when you draw those kind of parallels, it really helps people understand like, what you're getting at, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's the same thing with Israel and Gaza, you know? Why the fuck do we care about this?
Right. We shouldn't. It shouldn't be our problem, right? And
it
it being our problem only makes that problem 1,000 times worse, 1,000,000 times fucking worse.
Yeah.
Right. I'll just one more point I'll make, man. Is like not only is it like, you know, in your excellent example, not only is it that, you know, someone is convincing their children to go over there and get involved. It's like there are industries of people here predicated and built upon convincing you of why you have to go and do that. I know you said before, you know, on Twitter we misbehave and whatnot, but like other people who are like, in my opinion, we could bully them however the fuck we want, in my opinion as well. Like the neocon warmongering class on Twitter, every day pushing for a war with Iran, weapons of mass destruction. It's crazy. They're trying weapons of they're trying weapon WMDs again. Like they're just rolling out the same fucking thing all over again. They're like, let's try this one again. Let's see if people are dumb enough to have forgotten that we fucking lied the first time. Let's do it again.
Well,
people like that
I was talking to a couple of
endless bullying.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I was talking to some of my friends last night. I got a buddy who was a Marine for 10 years, you know, and I remember the first time that we were over at his house, and every once in a while he's good with coming up with these really sort of deep questions, you know, and he said, what's something that what's a hill that you're willing to die on? And I was like, oh boy. Because so I said, you know, like first of all, it goes around the room and my wife is like, I don't know, that, you know, I actually do like Crocs or something like that. And then his wife is like, I'm a sucker for mozzarella sticks or whatever. I don't know. But then it gets to me and I was like, American foreign policy has been the biggest. And I go hardcore, like hardcore ANCAP. When nobody else was going political, but I was just like American
foreign out. Yeah.
Oh, dude, it was horrible. I was like the last century of American foreign policy has been a huge detriment to our society. And he goes, what?
It was like one of those things where someone asks you, like, you know, like, how you doing? You're just supposed to say, like, yeah, I'm good. Not like, not the fucking level of depth.
I
You have
should
like
have
yeah.
what I should have done is been like, pineapple on pizza is not a crime. That's what I should have said.
Yeah.
But instead, I was like, American foreign policy for the last 100 years has been an absolute detriment to our society, blah, 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 blah. And I was also under the influence.
Sure.
Which when I can talk about this shit for hours, dude.
So can I. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I. We're talking about before, like around a campfire or something like that, or
Oh,
fire
yeah.
pit with a couple drinks. Yeah. I've now built enough brain muscle to try and check myself not to do that all the time, because you could turn people off by doing shit like that all the time too,
100%.
right? Especially when
Yeah.
people know that like that's your thing. They're like, oh no, we're about to hear another lecture about whatever foreign policy or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just unfortunate because I am surrounded by a family that is not political at all. And I'm the political psychopath who is obsessed with this shit, And so it's just like sometimes, and this is where, all right, I brought up my oldest son earlier. He's autistic, and I know he gets it from me because there are some times where somebody says a key word or somebody says a key phrase and it triggers me, and I'm like, well, I'm talking about politics for the next hour and a half, and I can't shut it off sometimes,
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I know exactly what you mean. I'm in like the same boat over here. I don't know. I've tried. Like it used to be worse years ago, but I've tried to kind of again like build some sort of muscle memory in your brain to be like, okay, like not everyone wants to hear about that all the time. It's kind of going back to not everyone's taking the red pill, right? Or was it the Michael Malice quote? Or is it a Michael Malice quote? I don't know if it is, but like you're supposed to just take one, not the whole jar at the same time.
That's Michael
right.
Malice.
Yeah. So that's the best approach sometimes for
Yeah.
certain people. Then you actually you can come off as fucking a kook, right? And then no one's going to want to listen to what you have to say or take it seriously, right? You might be in like the space where like it's the right moment for a conversation like that, but then you have this like people have this image of you and maybe it's not going to resonate. Talking to Dave Smith again, one of the reasons I think he's so successful is because like he doesn't come off that way, right? He tries to stay focused on like, here are the receipts. I'm talking about foreign policy, not like aliens and flat earth. And like, and these are all things that we talk about on Two Do Men podcast, right? But you know what I'm saying? Like he stays focused on those things that actually matter and in a very eloquent, convincing sort of way. And that's why you're seeing, his profile rise again, not to be a simp or anything like that. But I actually do think that there is some interesting data in watching like whose message is becoming more popular and resonating, like who's becoming more successful. We're free market capitalists here, right? So like I have no problem with people making more money, becoming more successful, especially if things they're saying are resonating with people. There's like data there. If you analyze it correctly, it's like, oh, there's a reason why that's happening. So yeah. Andy, that was an interesting conversation, man. I will say that I thought the Lord of the Rings was probably my favorite part. And you were talking about how you don't really talk politics with your kids or be like, here's the ANCAP worldview. This is what you need to believe when you get older. I agree with that 100%. One of the ways we can get them though to think that way is by making them watch the Lord of the Rings. I feel like because there are all 100%. These little messages of throughout the movies. That are, again, what we're talking about, like digestible for normal folk, right? And that's, my God, man, what a great fucking story. All these years later, it still resonates to this day. Thank God the movies are fucking timeless classics. They don't feel old. So
well, it's something. And if I wind up going on a tangent, feel free to tell me to shut the fuck up. But there's something about the Lord of the Rings. It is written by a Christian, and I'm an atheist. But if there's anything that I've learned from being an atheist for 10 years, 11 years, is that atheism does not offer anything as far as like a higher calling or anything like that. Been an atheist for 10 years, but I've come to the point where I've been watching a lot of Andrew Wilson lately. And I've realized that, Christian moral ethics are, and a very important thing in our society, as much as other atheists want to scream and kick and deny. But you watch Lord of the Rings, and Christian moral ethics are built into that story. And I think that's why it resonates so well. Christian moral ethics have historically built the most successful, free, and prosperous societies in human history.
Yeah.
And I think there is something about that resonates with people in the West on a much deeper level, you know. And maybe it's because, you know, our whole, like, there's something that, I know he's British, but there's something distinctly American about the Lord of the Rings, where it's like, you know what, we've got these impossible odds, but we're gonna fucking do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
That's our founding story, right?
It's our
It really
founding
is.
story.
Yeah. So you're right.
Is we took on the largest empire in the history of mankind, and we fucking beat them.
Yeah.
You know? And now we're sort of at that precipice again, where we are looking at the largest empire the world has ever seen. And right now, at this point in time, we're a point ahead. You know? And so we just got to keep that thing going. And it's baby steps. It's going to take a long time. It's one of those things where it's like you're going to plant trees that you'll never live long enough to sit under their shade. I butchered that line, I know for sure.
No, I know exactly what you mean, though. Yeah.
But it's like that's why whenever it comes to like having kids, like, man, raising your kids the right way is so goddamn important. It's so fucking important to raise your kids like the right way, and teach them to be independent thinkers, and teach them to like think for themselves, and do not accept something just because somebody tells it to you. You know, like, really put that information through the ringer and put it to the test. And if you can teach that to your kids, man, then your kids will sit under the shade of those trees that you're planting. But yeah, it starts with the kids, really.
Yeah,
It starts
they're
with
like
teaching
the
your kids how
ultimate.
to be smart.
They're like the ultimate form of the tree you're planting that you'll never sit under the shade of. It's not
100%.
exactly 100% accurate, you know, comparison, but no one's ever going to really get. You're never going to, if everybody just survives of to the end. You're never going to survive as long as they are, right? So
Yeah.
whatever it is, however they end up impacting the world when it's all said and done, you'll never have experience it. You're never going to see that.
Yeah.
Right? Unless you believe in going to heaven and looking down on the world and all that stuff, right? So it kind of is the in my opinion, like, it's kind of like the ultimate version of that.
Yeah.
Andy, I don't think there's a better spot to end this podcast than right there. It was really thought provoking. I felt like it was really something I needed in the moment too. Unfortunately, Captain wasn't here. Would have been a little bit different vibe if he was here, but maybe it was meant to be. I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe again, that was the universe. Maybe the universe was trying to fucking not allow us to have this podcast, and we still had it. It was really fucking deep and interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe there's more to it than meets the eye, perhaps.
All right. So it was when I said I was gay for Dave Smith, right?
Yes, it might have been.
Okay.
It, yeah.
All right. I knew it.
All right, everybody.
Well,
Andy, yeah. Got any final thoughts? Or to say shout out where everybody can find you?
No, I was just gonna say thank you so much for having me on. I haven't been on a podcast in a while. Me and Ben haven't done We Love the State in a long time. We still have plans to resurrect it, like fully resurrect it, but I don't know. Life has been getting in the way. A lot of changes in our lives, but I do want to say thank you so much for having me on. I really do appreciate it. If I could shout out a couple of plugs real quick.
Go for it.
Actually, it's only one plug. Check out Animal Violence. That's the band name. And look up our EP. It's called Mental Thrillness. There's 3 songs on there. They're banger songs. They're really catchy. They're really fun. If you're into metal at all, just check out the songs. You'll fucking love them.
All right. Good spot to end it.
Hell
Go
yeah.
check it out. All right, everybody. That is our show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Adios.
Peace.